Our event tonight is sponsored and presented by the Hapeville Community Coalition, as you probably know, with the support of the Hapeville Neighborhood Associations. And of those associations that are present tonight, I would like to introduce them. Virginia Park is Katie Gregory. Katie, are you here? Mickey has assigned all of the association people a specific duty, so we're all kind of busy. My name is Terry Cockrum, and I am with the Azalea Park Neighborhood Association. Northwoods Association is represented tonight by Mr. Lee Duke, and Lee Duke is also president of the Hapeville Community Coalition. Thank you, Lee. And Moreland Park is represented tonight by Mr. Jim Parker, who is sitting up here. Jim is going to be the timer for our event tonight. We do have, according to Mickey, we have some dignitaries that are here tonight. I'd like to introduce, if she is here, Nan Korick, our state representative. Mickey, do you see her? Okay, she was scheduled to be here, did have a previous engagement, but was going to try to stop by and say hello. There's also Noreen Cochran. Is she here? Editor of the South Fulton Neighbor and the Marietta Daily Neighbor. She's not here yet. Okay. We do have a local dignitary here. I want to introduce the lady that's responsible for the Hapeville Historical Society, and that is Miss Charlotte Rentz. Charlotte? And of course, we can't forget the existing political structure of our city, the mayor and council. Those that are here, if you would please stand up. Mr. Michael Randman. He must be over selling sandwiches, okay? Diane Dimick is here. All right. Mike Rast is here. Maybe. I keep getting Mike and his brother Jim turned around because I worked with Jim Rast at Eastern for a long time. And Josh Powell, who is going to have a seat up here before long, the only member of the council that is running again. And let's see, what's the guy's name that is the mayor? I keep forgetting. Alan Holman, are you here? There he is. Hey, Alan. All right, with no further delay, I am going to introduce to you the moderator of tonight's festivities. Her name is Gilda Waters. She does work with the Airport Chamber of Commerce, has retired from state government, Georgia state government, and has served 7 different governors. You think she'd be running around in circles by now. She retired in 2009, and she has her own consulting business and is a married lady, 1 son, 1 daughter, both grown, and a granddaughter. Grandson, I'm sorry. Okay, so with no further delay, I'm going to present our moderator for the evening, Miss Gilda Waters.
Thank you, Terry. Good evening. It's so nice to be with you. You know, candidates' forums are a representation of our democracy in its purest form. Forums allow you, the citizens, the time to see, to hear, to interact, and to learn from the candidates that want to represent you. In our era of society where everything is quick and easy, instantaneous, and even impersonal, I applaud the citizens that are here this evening participating and seeking a better understanding of where the candidates stand on issues that matter to you. Let me share a little bit about how we got here. Quickly, our planners, who are listed on our program, saw a void, quite frankly. They saw a void and they sought to fill it. With no forum planned by any other organization, the leaders of your Hapeville Community Coalition, supported by the neighborhood associations, joined forces, ladies and gentlemen, and so we are here tonight. Now, I was asked to be your moderator, focusing on doing so in a fair and impartial fashion. As a 30-year public servant who has worked extensively with cities and communities and all 159 counties, I've been in every single one of them across our state, I feel well suited for this role. I have worked both in collaborative environments and contentious environments. But we will proceed this evening in a decent and in order fashion. I will facilitate the dialogue respectfully and fairly, and our watchword for this evening, again, is decent and in order. Say it with me, if you will. Decent and in order. Thank you very much. Now, let me explain a little bit about our process. The questions that we will be asking this evening came from you, the citizens, and the candidates. Both were asked for their input. The questions were provided to me in their raw form. We grouped them by topic, and clearly the most popular topic was budget and finance. So there will be 3 questions that our candidates will answer relative to budget and finance. The other 2 categories, for which we have 2 questions each, include economic development and transparency in government. These topics, again, were grouped as a result of the questions that you provided. There will be 5 minutes between each category for audience questions and candidates' response. I will randomly select the citizen that gets to speak, and by random, you know what I mean. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Thank you for laughing. That's the way we will do that. It will be random. We are asking that those citizens that want to ask a question do so clearly and briefly. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the questions. They will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and 2 minutes to close. And at this time, as we move forward, I'm going to ask our candidates to please come forward and take your seats at the podium. Give them a hand if you would. Thank you. As they take their seats, I want you to know that the candidates will be available after the forum. So if you have a burning question that did not get addressed or that you did not get to ask, or you are seeking clarification on something you did hear, they will be here in the back, and we ask that you use that time to speak with them one-on-one. Candidates, we wish you well as you put your best foot forward, and we thank you for your desire to commit to public service. Now we will have the candidates introduce themselves. The candidates are printed in your program. They are Ward 1, Mark Adams, Brendan Dalton, Josh Powell, Chloe Alexander, Chris Phillips, Travis Horsley, Rod Mack, and John Stalvey. We are asking each candidate to please introduce yourself for 2 minutes. How will you know when it's 2 minutes? Bet you wanted to know that, right? I have the answer. Our trusty timekeeper is right there, front and center. And when your 2 minutes have arrived, you will see him do this. Very sophisticated move there. And when you are 30 seconds away, you will see him raise the 30-second signal, allowing you time to wrap up concisely. If it appears that you are going a little far, you will hear my voice saying time. As we are going to keep everything in order and on schedule as best we can. So with that, shall we begin? Let's ask our candidates going from left to right to take 2 minutes to introduce yourselves, beginning with you, Mr. Josh.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Joshua Powell. I'm actually your city council member. I am in Ward 1, and I am up for re-election. This is, it's been an interesting 4 years. We've done some amazing things. I moved here 7 years ago with my wife, and we chose Hapeville because of the community, because of the walkability, and because we know our neighbors. I love to be able to walk down the street, to go to a restaurant, and meet all of my neighbors walking down and have discussions. It takes a long time to get to dinner, but it's definitely fun to know everybody in your community. I also wanted to know that I could have an impact in this community. With this small of a city, each of you can have an impact. We have walkable parks. We can go to our parks. You can walk pretty much down the street to get to your park. Actually, right now, as we speak, Virginia Park, we are working on getting you a park. We are putting one of the creeks that's right next to Waffle House on Virginia Avenue. We're putting it underground so we can give you guys a playground for over there at Virginia Park. And also our public servants, our employees do an amazing job. Yeah, you can clap for them. So they... You know, my next door neighbor, this just happened the other day. My next door neighbor forgot to put out his trash. He has cerebral palsy. And our city employee realized that he didn't put his trash out. So on Thursday, he came by, went into the back, and got his trash. That only happens here in Hapeville. You go anywhere else, that will not happen. Well, once again, my name is Josh Powell. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. And I hope you vote for me in November.
Thank you. Next.
Okay, thanks everybody. My name is Brendan Dalton, and I'm just going to go straight into the substance of what's going to happen if I'm elected. I'm going to seek to pass an ordinance to requiring all city board meetings to be video recorded. Right now, the city has just decided to put 38 cameras at the cost of about $250,000 across the rest of the city, but yet we don't have the city council meetings and the other board meetings being recorded. Second thing, I won't vote to go into closed session. There's too much closed session in the city, in this city, so I won't vote to go into closed session. And should I be overridden and council decide to go into closed session, I'll just release the subject matter that we've discussed and all the documents that I've received, unless, of course, the city council decides to make it illegal for me to do so by passing an ordinance. That never happens. So everything that's going on in closed session, there's no reason why anybody should be sworn to secrecy on it. There's some other things that I could go down on the open government front, but I'm going to wait for the other questions because I'm sure they're going to be there. Forensic audit. We need to become solvent. Forensic audit. Forensic audit, forensic audit. We need it. We need to take all the pieces off of this machine, and we need to find out what's going on with every single one of them. Because if you know about last week's or the last city council meeting, the city council had to borrow $2 million because they don't have any money left. They had to borrow it from the water users. So water users had $2 million in the bank, but the city had $350,000. So that was, you can look at that in the last minutes. The other thing is pick up the trash. All the city arteries need to be cleaned up, and the way I propose to do it is for us to get a couple of all-terrain litter vacuums and have the city workers every day between 5 and 7 doing all those commercial arteries. Public safety, better pay for officers, more officers at night. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Mark Adams. I'm running for City Council for Ward 1. I'd like to thank the HCC as well as the neighborhood associations for for getting together and pulling this event and forum together. It's great to see so many people within Hapeville that are key stakeholders in Hapeville to come out and support the candidates for this cause. As I said before, my name is Mark Adams. I've been a resident in Hapeville since May of 2011. I am an advanced practice clinician. I am an educator as well as an adjunct professor with one of the local colleges here in Hapeville. Why did I decide to run for council here in Hapeville? It was because after attending many of the council meetings, I realized that there was a need, that there was a gap between what's been taught inside of the council meetings as well as what's been disseminated out in the public, and we needed effective change. So I think that by me being a part of that change, it creates positivity as well as engaging and enlightening our constituency here in Hapeville. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, point of reference, we're going to ask you to hold your applause. We know that you're thrilled and that these are awesome people, but so that we can move swiftly, we're going to ask you to hold your applause, and then we'll do a rousing round of applause at the end. Next.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Chloe Alexander. I'm approaching the end of my 9th year moving to Hapeville. I moved here in October 2008 from downtown College Park with my family. And I'm going to echo a lot of the things Josh said. The reason why I moved here, we were deciding were we going to stay in College Park, were we going to move back to Fairburn where my family was the walkability. Literally, this is our 3rd house that we've lived in Hapeville, the one that we live in on Arnold Street now, and I've never lived in a house that wasn't within walking distance of a park. I love seeing my neighbors out and about, and like Josh, I can't go anywhere, I can't go get coffee, I can't go to the grocery store without bumping into somebody I know. So I know lots of people say it's like Mayberry, and that's what I heard, and it really is. It's a really small place, and I also think that as far as government, we have a unique ability to be very hands-on with our citizens and know what they want and work hard to give them what they need, and everyone actually does have a voice. So it's very important to make sure that people feel comfortable participating and that they actually do participate, which is one of the reasons why I'm running. I'm not going to take the full 2 minutes, but thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
Next.
All right, my name's Chris Phillips. I've been here a long time. I'm easily the oldest guy up here, but sometimes that gets me antiquated and aligned with some of the old politics. That's not the case. I'm excited to see Hapeville growing. A lot of wonderful new things are coming. We enjoy all of the things that are going on around us, from the arts to businesses, new residences are being built. But over the last 3 decades, I've been to council meetings throughout those decades, and we've had the same problems: lack of budget reserve, city employees that didn't pan out to be what they were supposed to. Just the same basic problems that plagued our community, and, it's time for something to change. We need to get together, we need to look and study models in other places and find out what we need to do to take care of the problem so that we can truly become a modern city and also protect the people who've lived here. We all deserve, a wonderful community, and we have a great start. Thank you.
Next.
Hi, my name is Travis Horsley. I'm a de facto resident of Hapeville all my life. My dad's been a mailman here for about 32 years. My wife and I decided to set up our home here starting 4 years ago. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for hosting this event. Thanks, Gilda, for moderating. To get into the substance, I plan on focusing on 7 issues if elected: livability, public safety, capacity building, openness and transparency, economic development, cost savings in the budgetary process, and an analytics-based municipal management. So first, with livability, that means for me, we need to focus on mixed use and residential business development throughout our downtown corridor, focusing specifically also on the I-75 and I-85 ingresses to the city. We need to support our transportation and have oversight of the T-SPLOST process to make sure it's implemented and that we get the roads paved as quick as possible. I'm not sure about y'all, but I've been hitting plenty of potholes on the way into work on Dogwood and North Central over the last month. For public parks, I think we need to maintain the public parks that we have, keep them up, explore the possibility of what's called pocket parks in areas around town where there might be a blighted home that's been sitting there for 20 years, sort of rotting away. I think we also need to increase code enforcement. For public safety, I think we can have 6 extra officers, bringing our department back to its fiscal year 2013. I proposed doing that by using a purchase card. So if the city starts using a purchase card for all of its spending, you literally have loyalty bonus points the same way as your credit card gives you airline miles at the end of the year. Except for a city, if they use that for their spending, you got $200,000 at the end of the year.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next. It should be on.
Is this on?
Yes.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Stalvey. First, I want to thank everybody who helped put this on tonight, and I want to thank all the citizens for coming out tonight. I know that y'all are very busy, just like everybody else is, and you took a lot of time out to come and hear us tonight. So I want to thank all of you for coming and for being involved in the government here in the city of Hapeville. A little bit about myself. I grew up in a small town in South Georgia you've probably never heard of. And the reason that my wife and I decided to move here 13 years ago was when she got a job up here in Atlanta, I told her, we have to find a town that's very similar to the small town I grew up in. I want to know everybody. I want to be able to walk around just like they discussed. I want to walk around. I want to run into my neighbors. And I want it full of people that love their town too. And I think the people here in Hapeville love their town a lot. And then I told her, I said, when we settled down, we traveled when we first moved here a lot. The last 7 years, we've been really involved here. And as I got more and more involved in the community, I said, I see that there are a lot of things here that can be a lot better. And so every time I saw something that I said can be better, I joined a group or helped form a group that would make that better. We've painted houses, we've cleaned up parks, we've helped feed and meet some of our elderly neighbors that can't get out. And I want to bring that type of servant leadership to the government here in Hapeville. I think that one of the disconnects that we have here lately is that the trust between government and the citizens has been broken for various reasons. And I think that I'm the person that can hopefully build that trust back and build some type of relationship between the people and our government. And I'm going to do that by first and foremost telling you that I will be available to you whenever you need me. My phone number will be posted.
Time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rod Mack, and thank everybody for hosting this event. I'm a graduate of Morehouse College. I'm a member of the Hapeville Board of Appeals. I attend Hapeville United Methodist Church. We love Hapeville and the citizens who make it great. We share a common desire to improve the quality of life for citizens that knit Hapeville closer together, and so we can be off to a new economic agenda for our city government. Using digital technology, I believe that it takes more than technology. Facing city government challenges, I believe that we need a shared collaborative framework between citizens. Hapeville city government that will target sustainability and inclusivity, that will target benefits for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Now, would you join me in giving them a rousing round of applause? At the beginning, we said that we had a dignitary that was en route, and she has arrived, and we'd like to recognize our legislator, Nan Orrick. She's here with us now. Please give her a round of applause. We are going to follow our program, and so now we are about to move into the question category. The first category being budget and finance. Ladies and gentlemen, candidates, the way the format will go, each candidate will answer each question. Each candidate will have 2 minutes, and we will follow the same format. And we're going to ask our timekeeper to hold up the 30 seconds the whole time, if you can, so that they will see it. I'm also going to ask that we start first. We will start with the first question going to this first candidate here, Josh. Then the second round of questions, the first question will go to the next person, and we will proceed on down the line, all right? Here we go. So each year, the city has had to borrow money to maintain our general fund here until taxes are received. And this year, $2 million were borrowed, and by law, our budget must be balanced each year and should be done without additional taxes or fees. The question, how will you address this issue? Josh.
Well, this is an interesting one because we do have a balanced budget. So when I came here, there was, the year before I got elected, they were spending $900,000 in negative spending. Last year, according to the audit, we are in the green $800,000. So that's over $1 million swing from $900,000 to now we're at over $800,000 in the green. The reason we had to borrow $2 million is because of two specific things. One was, as we all know, Fulton County. Normally, we would have our taxes collected right now. So what happened is they decided to increase all of our property values to pretty much where they should be. So when they did that, everybody had a hard time. So Fulton County decided to roll back their taxes, or roll back the assessments. This has hurt the city dramatically because this actually, we still have not even collected our taxes yet. The second thing, so the first thing was the property taxes. The second thing is during the storms about 4 months ago, there was a lightning strike that hit our PD and our city hall. Now, all of that is interconnected. All of the routers, all of the phones, everything is interconnected. That one lightning strike cost the city over $300,000. So combined with the lightning strike and not getting our property taxes on time, those two things have made us fall behind. In July of this year, I actually asked for to see how much we had in reserves. We had $1.3 million in reserves. So that's where it all went to. Thank you.
Next.
Okay, so as I already went through before, the following specific things we can do to help Hapeville become solvent. The first thing, forensic audit. There is no zero-based budgeting here. There is no ability to track how much money is going in and going out. Ever since 1989, when Bobby Forgay was prosecuted for stealing $400,000 a year, or $400,000 from the city, there have been no extra financial controls put in. In addition, we've spent in 2016, 2017, through May 19th, we spent about $761,000 on legal fees, whereas the historical level, 2013 and 14, before Fincher Denmark became our attorney, we were spending about $133, $150. Sandy Springs, Georgia, which has a $100 million budget, spends about $830,000 on legal. So that's excessive in the extreme. So one of the things that we could save $650,000, right there. And that's 2013, as you remember, as Travis said earlier, that was back when we used to have six extra police officers on the force. Now we can't afford them because we have $650,000 in legal fees. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My approach to how we would solve this issue here as far as balancing the budget, we basically having a zero-based budget, basically. I think that would be the most advantageous in order to get a handle around all of the issues that we have in Hapeville versus going off of just a generic from the previous years that we need to be going line by line, evaluating the expenditures of what's coming in and what's going out. I don't necessarily see that type of oversight. And with that type of oversight, we have better control and remain fiscally responsible and solvent as a municipality here in the state of Georgia. Without that, we will be back where we are now. And by doing that, it opens up more transparency and trust among the community, just to make sure that we have a system in place whereby we are auditing every line by line to make sure that what we're doing is prudent and that we're not just doing it because it's the status quo of what we've done all the previous years before.
Thank you. Next.
And I'm just going to echo what Mark said. I would compare it to purchasing in a house. If you're in debt, you don't plan to install things in your house that you can't afford. And I know personally, I understand the tax thing. I work in APS, and because of the tax shortfall, I'm not getting the raise that I was promised. But on the other hand, I have to think, why was I promised a raise based on funds that aren't on hand? So I think the easiest way to do that, and I would even propose, because I would be walking into a situation that I don't have necessarily all the history behind, is putting a moratorium on spending until we can get a grip on exactly what's going in and what's going out. I know personally, I teach math for a living, and at the last council meeting when the budget was presented, I was very confused as far as money that was on hand and money that was being spent. The way that the budget is presented is a bit confusing, and it doesn't necessarily correspond with what Hapeville has to report to the Department of Community Affairs with the state. Whereas their form is very easy to read, it's very easy to see how much money we have, how much money we spent, and how much money is left over, where that doesn't necessarily match what is available as far as the city records. And so I think we would have to start from zero and go from there. No spending should be taking place unless we know we have the funds. And I don't think it's something that could be resolved overnight, clearly because we've been borrowing money for years. Clearly we're in debt, but I think we have to start from somewhere, and we start by not spending money unnecessarily.
It's on. Would you pass him the mic, Miss Chloe? Would you pass him there? Okay, thank you very much.
You broke both of them, Chris. This is not a muffler. No.
Let's try that. Let's see if this one will work for you.
I have one word. It's unacceptable. They're all.
This is unacceptable.
Hello?
All
Hey,
right.
this one's working.
All right, we got one
All right,
working now.
thank you very much.
It's unacceptable to have to borrow the money and put us in a $2 million hole to begin the next fiscal year. Where's the money going to come from? Every year, we find ourselves at a deficit or just on the edge. We need, according to the city manager, $5 or $6 million in reserve to take care of the things that we need to do to ensure that we handle the benefits of our citizens. They say it could take 5 to 6 years to develop this. It can't take that long. We have to use commercial development, bringing it in, because nothing will add to our reserve faster than that. Also, there are good things on the horizon. The hotel-motel tax will be coming in soon. Things are going to get in line with the residential taxes as well. So the future's bright, but it has to be taken hold of and looked at from all the things that Brendan said too, internally and externally. Together, we can make a difference, and it won't take that long.
I want to piggyback on what Mr. Adams said earlier. I definitely agree with the premise of the zero-based budgeting concept. I was working with the Senate Budget and Evaluation Office when Sonny Perdue decided to implement this, and because of his leadership at the time and leadership under our current administration, the state has about $2 billion in reserves, and so I do think zero-based budgeting is a way to lead. To explain what it is a little bit more, it basically just goes away with the adage that we're going to copy and paste our last year's budget into this year's budget and basically say if you spend it, we'll spend it again. And what it does is it takes your departments and basically has them prove the need for using the tax dollar based off of a project-based mechanism. My passion, particularly with regards to this question, extends to line item review of spend. The city and its citizens deserve a budget that addresses historical trends in spend, and this is oftentimes referred to as rationalizing the supplier base. So to give a frank example of what that means in terms of nickeling and diming, our rec department uses 5 different suppliers for sports uniforms as well as trophies. I'm not against rec uniforms, I'm not against trophies, but I think we can spend that money with one vendor and save more than $20,000. What you do with that money after you save $20,000 on something as simple as rec uniforms and trophies, and you buy them in a smarter way, you can turn around and spend that money on public safety. So I have a passion for nickeling and diming, and my promise as with regards to this question on how can you not get to a standpoint where you need to use $2 million from water sewer is
Time.
thank you.
Time. Thank you.
Let's see if this one works. Is this one working?
Yes.
Okay, so first, the great thing about being next to last is the fact that a lot of people have said what you're going to say.
Mm-hmm.
So first, as Josh said, the reason we borrowed $2 million was because of the lateness of our property taxes. And the city did not have the money to continue to function because it wasn't planned to run out of money at that date. Is essentially the easy way to put it. Mm-hmm. There are many things that we can do. We do need some help in our financial standing in this town, and it's getting better than it was. The property tax value dropping a few years ago killed the city, and then on top of that, losing one of our biggest taxpayers, which was, the Ford plant, we never really recovered from that. And some of the ways we can do that, we've already, the current council and the council before them have cut a significant amount out of the city budget. But I think one thing we can do is we can bring some of our fees, like for our permits, building permits and stuff like that, we can bring them more in line with some areas that are surrounding us. I don't think we're in line yet. We're working on it, but we're not quite in line yet. And to mirror what they said, I manage healthcare real estate for a living, and so I have to set budgets every month for my buildings, and we do a zero-based budget for all of them. And I think that is an effective, very useful tool, and because I'm used to that, I think that it is a great tool for setting any type of budget, and I think it could be expanded in the city of Hapeville as well. And I'm out of time, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next.
Here's the public service announcement. Taxes are due December the 31st. An essential requirement for a Hapeville budget should be an accurate estimate of municipal revenues, which is up to $30 million right now to be exact, Josh. When the budget is prepared by council, it is sometimes a hardship to reduce the estimates of various city departments versus current receipts that are appropriated to revenues that come into the city treasury and should be left to a forensic auditor. After a conservative estimate of operating revenues has been made and the budget resolved, appropriations kept within the estimate of resources for various departments. This, ladies and gentlemen, is budget making done correctly for the city of Hapeville.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, part of that question was to ask how would they address the budget, which you all did. And the second part was, if not a forensic audit, how would you determine our fiscal condition? Many of you already addressed that. If you have additional further comments on it, I'm going to ask that you group it with our next question so that we can be prudent with our timing. So the question next is, what are the first steps that you'll take to reduce the spending in all areas of the budget, to include the outside contractors, which many of you have already addressed? Currently, we are paying a good bit, over $1 million out of your $10 million budget. So how quickly will you take action to reduce these expenditures? And we're going to start with you, sir.
Well, a lot of people know that, my opinion is that the first place that we have to start is with the city's legal services. The city of Hapeville has no business paying the same thing as Sandy Springs. Sandy Springs is enormous. Sandy Springs is wealthy, and they spend about the same thing we did last year for our legal services. And if you want to find out how much we spent on our legal services up to May 19th, you can check in the May the 24th meeting packet, and it's at page 82 roundabout. And in that, it said that that we've paid about $760,000, and that was only through May the 19th. So I'm going to imagine that there's much more after that, and I don't know if it includes some of the money that was paid in fees from Solis was paid to Earl Taylor. That was $98,000. So since that didn't come from the city, but it was done on behalf of the city, I believe that's another $98,000 on top of the $760,000. And basically, that's just an enormous amount of legal fees. We definitely can get by with a neutral attorney to give city council the neutral advice. And then if we have to hire an attorney for litigation, that should be a separate person, because the person who is doing the services, i.e. doing the litigation for us, should not be evaluating their own work. That doesn't happen anywhere. And thank you.
Thank you. Next.
What would be my first steps? Actually, I think that it'd be prudent for any incoming council person to ask for the cost centers within the departments of the administration of the municipality in which they are serving. So I would definitely ask for the budget for all the cost centers to look at their spending, to see exactly what's going well in those departments and where the opportunities lie, and try to correct it from that perspective there. I will also drill down to ensure that we can cut out redundancy and also waste. I think that's very important to create basically a lean model approach to the government itself. Also, I think that we need to hold the leaders of those departments very much so accountable to be able to speak to why we have such gross variances and why we're over budget. I think that's very important and imperative to be able to do that. So that's how I would do it as well.
I know that the city has an audit every year, and I checked 2016, 2015, and 2014. And there was a comment in each of the audits that basically there's too few people doing too many people's jobs. And I think we're all aware that if people are overburdened, and especially if they're doing jobs that they're not necessarily trained in, they're more likely to make mistakes. So, for instance, the city doesn't have something like an accountant. The city doesn't have a bookkeeper. The city doesn't have a finance manager. The hiring of one or two of all of those positions, I think, could kind of clarify how money is being spent on a regular basis instead of waiting until the yearly audit to figure out, okay, we need to make these changes. Another thing that could immediately reduce spending, and I credit Travis with this because he told me about this system, is a P-card system, a purchasing card. Each department head would get a purchasing card, and immediately we're able to track where they're spending money and what they're spending money on. And if there's any leaks, then you go straight to that department head, because that card cannot change hands without some kind of electronic confirmation from that department head. I also think that there are recommendations from the state for how much money personnel members should be making. And if we find that personnel members are making above that, it should be adjusted. I mean, sometimes cuts have to be made. This doesn't make everybody happy, but if it's for the sake of all of us, then sometimes we have to make those hard decisions. So perhaps creating positions that will help reduce the spending and also cutting back in areas where it needs to happen.
Thank you. As a point of reference, we are very cautious about our time, and in staying on the time, candidates, you will see that we're asking you both questions about what steps would you take and how quickly would you take action to reduce those expenditures. Those first four have addressed that, and so we would ask you to do the same.
Okay, I'll address the second part right away, and that's immediately. If I get elected, that will be something that I will take a look at right away, because I think there's two areas of concern. One is, of course, city government internally, and the spending that we spend on use for programs. We need to sit down, do some serious research, see which of those programs are really being used by the people and are really promoting the city in the best way possible. Keep the focus on those. We can't grow too quickly. It's important that we grow. And also, look at our internal budget. The people who are working, are there people working too little for too much? Are there people working too much for too little? And try to balance that out. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to follow Chris's lead and answer the second question first as well. I think although you can say immediacy once elected, I think your real impact is on the fiscal year 19 budget. So the focus would be in doing the pre-homework, if you will, to understand where are we sort of leaking in our general ledger, where can we save money, using the zero-based budgeting platform, and then using that to affect change for fiscal year 19. So basically what that means is you ramp up between election installment of being elected and June 30th of 2018. To answer the first question and sort of tie it in with the forensic audit that you had referenced earlier, I think we're still sitting on the cord. I'm sort of opposed to the idea of the forensic audit, but I do believe that there is a need to have a constant monitoring function within the city government. So we're sort of reading over the previous budgets, as Chloe was mentioning as well. It does talk about wearing too many hats. My proposition would be that you actually eliminate the assistant director of finance and you have a certified fraud examiner that would be like the chief auditor for the city that would report to mayor and council. That would be sort of similar in charter to how the city clerk reports to mayor and council. The model, if you want to look up this, would be Jacksonville, Florida. They have a really interesting story, and this will stick in your head. A Brazilian butt lift, Jacksonville, Florida. If you search that, it'll tell you what the importance of having a chief auditor is. They ended up finding so much money that was being misspent in their city just because they had a misspending and lack of an auditing function. I think we need to have a Department of Engineering. We currently pay around $247,000 a year to our engineers. And
Thank you.
Is this one still working? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to follow their lead, and I'm going to answer the second question first. How quickly will I take action to reduce our expenditures? As soon as, if I were elected, the city budget will automatically go down $7,800 because I'm not going to receive a salary to be a council member. And I'm going to, in turn, give that money back to the city to be used for whatever we deem to be most important. I've got a few things in mind. That's $31,200 over my term. So that would be the first thing, so it would be immediate. Secondly, as Travis said, if elected next year, you come on, most of the things that you want to do will not happen until 2019. So with that being said, the first question is how would I reduce the areas of the budget, including contractors? Well, I would really like to look at the redundancies. I think there's still some redundancies inside of our city government. And I also would like to implement some performance measures for all departments, including our contractors and especially our contractors, to make sure that what we are paying to our contractors is of value to the city and that we are getting a return and a bang on our buck for what we're paying them. I would like to see some type of grading system that tells us that if we paid a contractor $100,000, that I want to see how much economic impact, for instance, that we had returned to the city for that amount of money, and things like our DMO. And I'm out of time, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. I would like to bring city government and businesses together, public and private, first of all, to discuss keeping money inside of Hapeville and keeping it from bouncing all over the place. Second of all, I will provide a fair and published bidding process for businesses to thrive and compete for services and products that are available to the city at an affordable rate. Thank you.
And Josh? It's
Sorry
on.
about that. It is on.
It's on.
So I think the how fast, I'm going to go with everybody else, how fast we're going to do it. I think being on council is how fast you can convince 3 other people to do it. Just remember that each person is a vote, and you have to get 3 people to do absolutely everything in this city. So just remember that. The way I would reduce spending, and the way I have reduced spending, is to negotiate with these contractors. Sit down with them, talk to them, and haggle with them, and see if they'll go down on their prices. I've done this multiple times, and each time I'm saving the taxpayer money, $40,000, $50,000. You know, that's not a lot of money when you're talking how big our budget is, but every little bit counts. Also, we need to look at the each line item when we vote for something. I remember that when I came to council, I don't remember which year it was, but there was an envelope folding machine and stamp machine. Now, they wanted us to pass it so they could keep it. It's so they had it and they were just leasing it. So this envelope folding machine cost thousands of dollars, and it came to find out that we do not use it. It sat in a box somewhere because we use that envelope folding machine. We actually outsource our water bills. So we were going to use that envelope folding machine for our water bills, but instead we just outsourced it. So that's one of the ways I would do it. I just want to sort of mention about the police. It was mentioned that we're -6 police officers on the force. That's not true. We're only -1 from 2013 levels. I've been keeping track of it. So we're only -1 from 2013.
Thank you. All right, we are moving forward. You are doing a fabulous job, candidates, of staying focused and sharing your answers. Wouldn't you agree? Yes. Right. Moving forward, because we want to make certain that we are watchful of our time. We're now at the juncture where we have 5 minutes to take a question from the audience. The person that comes up will be asked to come around here so that you can use this mic. And I saw a lady put her hand up, and so you're it. If you would quickly come forward using this mic that I'm standing here at, ask your question and let us know, if you would, if it is for a particular candidate or for all. The truth of the matter is, it's likely that all will not have time in 5 minutes to answer it. That's fine if you'll come. The steps are right here. And the clock will begin at the point of your asking the question, and candidates, he will let us know when time is up. Same way we've done. Thank you. Go right ahead.
This is a question for just one candidate. Brendan Dalton, you speak a lot of the money we spend on city attorneys, but isn't it true that you sued the city along with the coalition? And that if you hadn't have done that it would be a lot less money?
Well, there was one, if you look in the budget where I mentioned before on May the 24th, you'll see that the city attorney has charged the city $760,000. Of that, it says that 1% of that, or $76,000, was used on the water and sewer matter. The water and sewer matter, I can tell you what that is. In 2001, City Council voted to create a water and sewer authority. The water and sewer authority's job was to set water and sewer rates. The city attorney at that time was Steve Fincher. Between 2001 and 2016, there was not a single meeting of the water and sewer authority to set rates. Not a single one. So was there litigation? Yeah, it was $76,000 out of $760,000, and that was to correct one of his own mistakes, when in fact he should have just owned up to his mistake, told City Council, and had them fix it openly, instead of getting more money from the city to fix a mistake that he made. Now why we would tolerate a city that has a authority that is existing from 2001 to 2016 that was supposed to oversee water and sewer debt and be overseen by an independent board of citizens and set water rates, and we never had any meetings. You'll have to ask Mr. Fincher about that.
Thank you. Do we have time for a second question? Do I have a person? If not, yes, sir. Come, if you could come quickly. Mr. Timekeeper, how much time do we have? Will you stop the clock? And we're going to continue to 5 minutes. If you'll come right around here, please, sir. We ask that you will be as quick and concise, yes, as you can.
This would be a question to all the candidates. Be brief as possible, but try to be specific. I want to know how you feel about the current fact that the city of Hapeville is one of the highest, if not the highest, millage rates around. And I don't know what the county is going to do next year, but let's say, for example, if there's a 20 or 30% increase, I want to know how you feel as far as a rollback to be fair to the citizens of Hapeville.
Thank you. All right, we're going to ask that question. We're going to start with you, sir.
Sure, absolutely. I would thank and congratulate current council for decreasing the millage rate, first from, I think, 16.1 to 16.4. And how I foresee that is that to continue on the path of decreasing the millage rate, that our homes have to be valued appropriately. If our homes are valued appropriately and appraised appropriately, I think that will also add into the ability for the city to decrease the millage rate, and our taxes could become very low as before. So I think that our homes have to be valued appropriately in order for that to occur.
All right, we have more time, so we'll continue down the go right ahead.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And I know people are opposed to their values of their homes going up because that means that their tax bill is going to increase. But on the flip side, would you be willing to sell your house at the value that it's valued at now? I know I wouldn't, because I'd lose a ton of money. And so those valuations are not accurate. And if they were accurate, our millage rate would go down.
Thank you. Next, Chris.
It's no doubt that it's expected that our property values will rise here, and also with it our taxes, but we have to find some way to balance it, not all at once. As he spoke about, the appraisal versus the actual value versus the assessment and the millage rate all go hand in hand, and I believe that we can work together to find a happy medium where it won't be such a burden all at once on the taxpayers.
Thank you.
Following up with what Mr. Adams said earlier as well, there's 1,036 parcels in a close to a 3,000 parcel town that do not match between Fulton County and Hapeville. That's atrocious. 1/3 of our zoning does not match Fulton County's zoning code. Sent 57 emails over the last 3.5 years, made barely any progress until I started working with Mr. Powell, to meet with a chief appraiser, deputy chief appraiser that's interim in Fulton County by the name of Zachary Mitchell. We started working on this. They were going to correct it. Once that's corrected, it'll actually cause an influx of more tax money. I'm not saying that we should have more tax money. I think our revenues are good in the model that we have right now. But once you fix the books, what I'm getting to is the appraisal model will then be fixed. You have 273 properties that are commercial on Hapeville's books, but are still zoned as residential in Fulton counties. That needs to be fixed. It's wrong. And so once you have that fixed, you can then move forward with a model where you can reduce the millage rate, and it actually works out to the betterment of everybody. So we need to fix the books. It's a low-hanging fruit. If elected as a council member, less of a hunger strike, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, but at Fulton County, it needs to be fixed.
All right, you have a few seconds. Go right ahead, Tom.
Okay, so first and foremost, you are correct. We do have some of the highest millage rates around, but comparing our millage rates to other towns is kind of difficult because a mill is linked to the value of your home. And so a mill in Hapeville is not the same as a mill in, say, Sandy Springs, for instance. Sorry, I'm out of time.
Thank you very much, candidates. You did an excellent job of adhering to the rules. We will start with the next public question with you, John, when we get to that point. Thank you very much. Well, how's it feeling to you? Feeling pretty good? All right, we are on time. I would like to call your attention to that, and that will be the case throughout the evening. Bottled water, please, to the podium. Thank you so much. We can do that. Moving right along, we are now moving to the second category, and that category is economic development and sustainable growth. You will see there on the screen where we talk about growth must be strategically, strategically managed to achieve the vision that has been developed for the city now and in years to come. Now, Hapeville is poised for unprecedented growth. What steps would you take to ensure or to assure that growth occurs within the comprehensive and livable initiatives plans and still maintain the small town ambiance? So the first question becomes, growth is occurring all around the city, and city boards and authorities are responsible for maintaining that smart growth. What would you do to make sure we are communicating and collaborating in this commercial and residential growth? Now, the last person we ended with was Josh, and we started with you that time, so we're now going to start with you, sir, and we'll move around. Chloe, thank you so much. We start with Chloe. Audience participation is greatly appreciated. We are back to our 2 minutes, and thank you so much. We are back to 2-minute responses, and Ms. Chloe, your time begins now.
Well, first and foremost, I think that preserving and protecting the existing residential areas is important, which goes with zoning. Because I know with the last LCI plan, I know personally there were it was proposed that buildings up to a certain height would be extremely close to my house, and I said, I don't like that, and I'm pretty sure my neighbors would not like that either. So with growth, I think we have to keep in mind that people live here, and people have lived here for a very long time. I know I personally don't plan on going anywhere for a long time, but one thing that would push me out is too much commercial growth too close to my neighborhood. I do believe in the community being walkable, and I think that needs to be kept in mind, and concentrated development should be limited to the existing business districts, especially the Loop Road area, because that's pretty far away from our residential areas. I also think that us being such a small town, and I've mentioned this before, we need to be actively seeking out the type of businesses that residents want. For instance, grocery stores, independent or family-owned restaurants that are not chains. These are kind of things that I know that I've heard echoed from many of my neighbors and people I meet that we want in our neighborhoods. And so I think as council people, I personally don't have business connections with people. I know that there are people who do. I would like to collaborate with those people to figure out how do we attract those types of businesses here to make not only growth that's going to help our city financially and put us on the map and attract people here, but it's also going to keep our residents happy and attract more people to live here because of the type of city that we're creating for them.
Thank you. Next.
I think the most important word in that question is communicating. Obviously, communication solves most of our problems. We have council meetings once, sometimes twice a month. And some people come, but you don't get the real feel of what's on most people in Hapeville's mind from that. I think it's important that we get together and talk about the kind of businesses we want. We all want shopping, a grocery store, and we're headed in the right direction. There are places in Hapeville that are suitable for those things without too much encroachment on our residents. How we make that happen is just setting aside time and functions to get together and speak. That's it.
When the developer of Atlantic Station built that, they had over 2,000 public and private meetings between its initiation and its completion. I think if Hapeville is to expect the same type of development, quality development that brings in more persons yet keeps a residential fill of our existing neighborhoods, we should expect the same level of communication. I think over communication is better than under communication, and so long that there's a collaborative design process between the neighbors and developers, I think that's what's necessary. The current hotels that are going in are using payment in lieu of tax. I'm a proponent of that for a few reasons, in the sense that I think we need a pilot for maybe 1 or 2 anchor properties in town, but we should be wary of using it more than that, because Ultimately, you're sort of suffering, your kid is suffering from the lack of foresight of political leaders 25 years beforehand. What that does bring in, though, is some anchor properties that would incentivize folks to build stuff like the Asbury Park development. So I believe we should focus on using tax incentives when necessary to bring in quality development, but not oversaturate our usage of that mechanism to build up the city.
So this is an interesting question to me because I was just speaking to a young lady who opened up a new health center here in town, and she has some concerns about how to build her business. The city boards and authorities, I serve on the on the design and review board, and I've sat in on some meetings with the development authority. And in the design and review board, we have a lot in our design standards that are no longer of use to the city of Hapeville is the best way to describe them because they're outdated. And I think that that's something that over the next 4 years we need to fix so that the buildings that we are building here in Hapeville have a look that fits into Hapeville and mirrors the image that we want of a small, charming town. And I have to mirror what Travis said in that so far as development that happens in the commercial standpoint, the residential is going to come, the residential growth is going to come because Hapeville is getting known now. People are starting to learn about Hapeville and it's growing. We're already seeing it in the prices of the new homes that are coming. And with that, it's going to be commercial. The LCI study says that we have room for about maybe 400 or 500 more rooms, but and so far as hotels. But I don't think that it doesn't say that that was before if the new Porsche 3 project comes online, that will probably satisfy most of that need. So it said that what we need is more office space, and with office space, we're going to get more residential growth. So I would like to try to get some tax incentives to offer some type of office space to come in the areas that are already commercial. And then so far as communicating would be to make sure that we, to mirror what I don't remember, I'm sorry, one of you said earlier, was to make sure that we have everything is videotaped so it is available on the website.
Thank you. Time. Next.
Yes, as a current member of the Board of Appeals, which makes sure that commercial and residential businesses are in compliance. A detailed survey of 1,900 small cities conducted in 2016 by the ICMA, the International City County Management Association, found that cities with fewer than 10,000 people adopted sustainability measures as follows. 1, a smart code zoning system approach for undeveloped and outlying areas for commercial and residential areas. 2, promote a green infrastructure for better transportation, a better transportation route for pedestrians, cyclists, and public transit. And number 3, establishment of a commuter transit system between Solis Hotel, Hartsfield Airport, and our other hotels here that will spur economic growth 24/7.
Thank you. Josh?
So this LCI study was an amazing study with lots of citizen input. The Sizemore group, the people that did it, they actually won an award for this study. So it's the planners around the nation have looked at this study and really like it. So I want to make sure that we follow this LCI study. I've asked actually council and the city manager to come up with a Gantt chart to make sure that we're following this LCI study, to make sure that we're hitting our goals where they need to be. So this plan sitting right here does not just get put on the shelf and collect dust like lots and lots of other plans do in many cities around the country. I also have to echo sort of what Chloe said about the community. I sort of touched on that at the opening. We really need to make sure that we keep our community walkable. We need to make sure that we still know our neighbors and make sure that we're still Hapeville. We got to make sure that we have this development and it's in the correct space. We can't have a huge hotel being next to residential. We just got to make sure that we are aware of that. John Stalvey, talking about the design review standards. They do need to change. They're antiquated, they're old, and they just need to be looked at and refreshed. And developers coming to talk to neighborhood associations. I think it was one of our developers, I forget which one it was, actually a few of them, go out and actually meet with the groups. They'll go to people's homes and knock on doors and let them know what's coming or what might be coming next to them. And let them know, hey, this is what's happening, and give feedback, and they actually change their designs based on what the neighborhood is saying. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Okay, just to echo a bit what some other folks said, we do have design review standards. If they need to be changed, they need to be changed. And I'd probably agree that there are many that do. But as far as maintaining growth and maintaining the right kind of growth in the right kind of areas, that's what we have zoning for. And, we have a lot of zoning code, and if that needs to be looked at, then that needs to be looked at. That's where you control growth in an ethical way. Where I feel like you control growth in a possibly, in a way that isn't a market-driven drive towards the property being used in its highest and best use, is when a development authority becomes a huge market participant in city life. And that's what we've got now is we've got a lot of vacant lots that are being held for a lot of projects that we're not sure about. We've got, development authority owns a dilapidated theater and a dilapidated gas station that has a huge environmental bill that's going to probably be associated with it. So what we need to do is use zoning, and we need to get markets to determine what goes on with property in Hapeville, rather than city bureaucrats and city elected and appointed officials. Thanks.
Thank you. Next.
If you picked up one of my palm cards, you would see that a part of my platform speaks to basically reviewing the permitting policies, planning policies, and practice for efficiency and fostering economic development within Hapeville, basically. So that kind of like mimics what everyone else has said up here. In addition to that, it's some of the visions within the citizens of Hapeville is planned for us to become a global center of commerce and a regional hub of arts and culture, yet maintain the small town feel. That's what the vision is that some of the residents here in Hapeville desire. So how do we do that? What that look like? I was, like Chloe, Josh said, maintain the walkability within Hapeville. Increase accessibility in Hapeville. Make sure that we keep a check and beautify our commercial corridors here in Hapeville. Whereby they look appealing to people that want to come here and live, as well as want to build here as well. Also, we need to create and implement a business recruitment and retention strategy for Hapeville to see exactly what the actual constituency and the residents want, and go off of that, build off of that, recruit those type of businesses here. We need to also strengthen our education opportunity in Hapeville. I think that would be a key driver as economic growth here in Hapeville. It's if you look at a lot of schools that have magnet programs, or either programs such as the Arts School of Arts, like IB program, International Business Program, does wonders for growth. I just think that we need to continue to make Hapeville an art destination for growth, and just basically market our city very proactively to the outsiders to draw business here in Hapeville.
Thank you. We're going to take a point of privilege to move through our agenda. Our second question, which is, how would you use the comprehensive plan to ensure growth is sustainable and focuses on achieving and maintaining the optimum growth balance of 70% owner occupants and 30% rental? Many of you have touched upon some of this. We're going to ask you to do a 1-minute response. A 1-minute response with 8 candidates will get us back on track. Beginning with you, Mr. Chris, I believe.
Hello. I think that, I'm not sure, I'll be honest with you, what the ratio of owner to rental is in Hapeville now. But with the renovation of the homes that are going on, I see more owner occupants moving in. Quicker permits for renovation of self-existing structures, especially in the areas where most of those are rental homes now, will probably bring more folks in who want to live in those homes. Also, let's face it, we have a lot of good programs that are in town now, and it makes people want to be a part of it. So we're doing that in an incidental way.
Thank you very much. Next.
If the definition of a renter is the person that's not the same as the owner of the home, then we got 42.5% of this town is renter. So we're a ways away from hitting 30, but I think the key word is density. Build up, not out, and we can focus on, with stuff like the Asbury Park development, making sure that part of the zoning for that area includes the need to have apartments that are, not apartments, owner-occupied units so that we can grow our population. I think the city can be optimally around a 10,000 person city versus 6,800 where we are right now. And over time, we can, by using zoning, by building more densely, focus on bringing down that 42.5%, I would say probably to around 35% by 2030.
Thank you. Next.
So my answer to this question is that as the values of our homes go up, they're going to be too valuable to be rental homes. The way you do it is you make your homes more valuable, and so valuable that the person who owns the rental as an investment, it is more advantageous to them to sell the house than to rent the house. And we're well on our way. I don't know if any of you have priced or bought a home lately here in Hapeville, but our home values here are going up. The house across the street from me just sold for a large sum, and so I think if we continue to do things like the economic development things that we've been discussing tonight to make people want to move to Hapeville, then the values will go up so much that the renters and the property owners who own the rental properties will go away.
Thank you. Next.
Hapeville real estate property valuation or land valuations is the one process that I will have a serious opinion and vote for value. And for real property, our methods will be considered from a comparative investment, residual, and tax basis.
Josh.
So sort of what John said, I think increasing property values. Those people that bought that house for $30,000 in the recession, when they realize that they can sell that same property for $230,000, I think a lot of these landlords are going to be selling pretty quickly. Speaking of increasing property values, AJC article that came out a few months ago, probably about 6 or 7 months ago, that said Hapeville had the fastest increase in home values in Atlanta. In the metro Atlanta area. So we are being known for that. Homestead exemption, there's a tax question that I didn't get to answer. Increasing homestead exemption, that could be a way that we help people and incentivize them to buy homes here in Hapeville. So as property values rise, we can increase homestead exemption and we can decrease our taxes so we can get that break-even point, just like we did this year when we had we had more money coming in taxes. We rolled back our millage rate from 16.61 to 16.41.
Time. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, taxes in the city of Hapeville, we had the rollback on millage that Josh just spoke of. However, we had to advertise a tax increase because our taxes increased on our digest. According to the city advertisement, our property taxes went up 32% with the rollback. I wasn't able to find another instance of a municipality ever having a tax increase that was that large. That's going to generate an extra $1.6 million, which is what is going to go to pay back the $2 million that they're borrowing from the Water and Sewer Authority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and sorry, one more thing. John's right. From where we are, we're going to our home values are going to go up. So our occupant owners are going to go up too. I agree with that. So.
Thank you. Next.
Basically, what I have to say about that is that the perception of real estate is real. If the perception is that an area is blighted or there's a de-investment in the area, property values will continue to plummet. Therefore, you would not have the influx of people wanting to come into the area to live. So I think, how do we do that? To change from a 70%, to get back to the 70% owner occupancy versus a 30% rental, I think that we have to make sure that we have to strengthen or truly have code enforcement go out and address those blighted properties. You know, I think that's very low-hanging fruit. Those blighted properties continue to drastically delete our property values. We have to increase accessibility, walkability for people to come here. We have to also make sure that we raise these property values about single-family homes are more appealing versus these multifamily units that we have here in Hapeville. And lastly, we have to also basically advertise that despite we have some crime in Hapeville, that we have the lowest crime rate here in Hapeville.
Time. Thank you. Next.
I think that we need to adopt parts of the comprehensive plan immediately that address walkability, to include bike lanes, to improve and install sidewalks where they don't exist, and green space. Also, beautification in areas where there's a high density of rental property, like Mark just mentioned. If we are citing those landlords who are not maintaining their properties, they're going to be more likely to sell to continue to rent property that they're not maintaining. And also, I think we need to attract and work with developers to build affordable housing, because that's going to attract people who would usually be renting to actually purchase houses in Hapeville instead of renting homes or apartments.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, what I have just done as your moderator was make that decision to move our agenda forward. This is an area where, should you have a burning question or an additional clarification is needed, I would encourage you to meet with the candidates at the close of the forum this evening. They will still be around in the back, if not up front. And now we have time for one audience question so that we can stay on time. My assumption is that you value your time and you value us valuing your time. Am I right about that? All right, let's move forward with one audience question. Do we have an audience question? If not, we can move forward. There being none, we will stay on track and we will move to the final area of discussion, which is transparency in government. So the laws of Georgia dictate the principles of openness in government for all citizens to have access to what public officials are doing in public and private meetings. They should also have access to the records and information that's needed to participate in the democratic process. So what we're going to do, we're going to put both of these questions up to allow you a full 2 minutes to get your questions out. The first question is your answers out. All right? State at least 3 things that you would do to expand transparency in city government and to ensure that all citizens have an opportunity to be informed and engaged in the political process. That is question number 1. Many of you have already touched upon it, and if we agree, we can couple that with the second question relative to social media, which we all know is a primary driver for information disseminated to citizens and business owners to be kept apprised of what's going on. This is also the first place that outsiders look to determine their interest in moving here or investing in this city. So we would also want you to address what will you do immediately to update, add, and maintain to the social media structure that we currently have in our city. Are we clear? Thank you all. We will begin. Have you all been paying attention? We will begin with, that's right. Travis, 2 minutes, please.
All right, 3 things. 3 things for transparency. And again, you can grab one of my pamphlets when you leave as well. Revamp and declutter the city website and base it off of current design standards. Our website was built probably over a decade ago. and I think they were giving a hot deal to a bunch of municipalities because a bunch of other municipalities have the same problem as us. We should live stream council, commission, and board meetings. With technology as it is today, and with statutes as they are, the Sunshine Law dictates that we have to have our minutes out within 3 business days. You can really take your agenda and auto-translate everything that's happening in a meeting live. So there's no reason that we shouldn't have our minutes updated based off of the actual words that are coming out of a council or the mayor's mouth at a meeting. And we should expedite the records request process by using document management software. Anything that's printed, anything that's saved on a computer can be automatically archived and published if so desired to expedite the records process. With regards to social media, in particular, Ms. Lamb approached me before this meeting about Nextdoor and the need to have more focus on being, I guess, more of a pleasant actor in the social media sphere. I agree with that. And so I think separate from mayor and council, maybe we could do a meeting of leads every 2 months to talk about how we could improve something like that. So thanks for bringing that to me. And I think with the HAP money now being used for Atlanta Airport District, they're really teaching the city a lesson on how to use sponsored posts and things as it relates to Facebook and Instagram. So.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you. So 3 things. For one, to mirror a little bit of what Travis said, the city rolled out at the last council meeting a wonderful new camera system, and one of the cameras is actually sitting inside of the council chambers and the courthouse, or the courtroom rather. And I think it would be pretty easy for us to link that camera to some live streaming events so that we could easily and cheaply live stream those meetings and log them digitally so that people can access them very easily. We've got some citizens here that have already been nice enough to continue to put them on social media for citizens that aren't able to, and I personally have gotten a lot of use out of that. The second thing is I will commit to having some. I don't know exactly. I haven't yet exactly worked out the entire plan, but I will have a regular business hours at some point monthly so that citizens can talk to me about anything in their government that they want, and I will listen to them. And then also, I think that we can, the third thing would be, again, like Travis said, we need to revamp our website completely. When I mentioned that I would not be receiving a paycheck for council, one of the things that I earmarked that I might pay for with that, should I be elected, would be the revamp of the website, because I myself have tried to find things on that website and it was very difficult to. Travis is nodding his head. And then what was the other question?
The other question was relative to social media.
The social media. I think the city has done a good job here lately I've noticed more and more social media presence of the city lately. But I think that we can continue to, it's not really social media related, but we have access to 2 digital billboards here in town that the current council worked out a wonderful deal for that allows us to advertise on that for free.
Time. Thank you. In fairness to our candidates, they can only see one of the 2 questions that they've been asked to state the 3 things that they would do to expand transparency. The second question, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, is what will you do to immediately update, add, and maintain to the social media structure that we have here? We apologize that you can't see both questions. Next.
In the city of Hapeville, there must be a clear vision between the citizens and city government. Often there's a leader, our Honorable Mayor Hallman, who unilaterally makes decisions concerning hiring, salaries, and the direction of Hapeville. However, I believe, 1, all salary information should be public. 2, who is accountable for any salary outcome. And 3, again, a forensic audit. It's a hard decision for city government and one that requires a lot of sacrifice. and effort from City Council. So there are many things more effective at making citizens feel like being a part of this city and being able to talk about concerns and frustrations rather than keeping secrets and our citizens in the dark, no pun intended.
Thank you. Next, that would be you, Josh.
So with the transparency, with this budgetary season, we actually added a website that we're going to start using called open.gov. So that's a budgeted item. Open.gov, it has all of our check registries in there. So you'll be able to go to open.gov, go to the city of Hapeville, and see all of our spending. So that's one of the things that we have actually done to make us more transparent. And the camera system. I sort of what John said. That 10 camera system that we had installed, one of them is inside the council chambers, also the courtroom. So that's there, and it's very cheap to live stream that. But with that, we also need to make sure that all of our meetings happen in that room. We need to stop having meetings in the back of City Hall. And so a lot of citizens get confused of where the meeting's going to be. Is it going to be at the judges or the courtroom, or is it going to be in the back of City Hall? And then all in one place, have those meetings all in one place. And document management. Document management is huge. There's so much paper. You know, they said that in 2020 we'd be paperless. Yeah, right. But paper is huge in Hapeville. We need to make sure that we go online, start filling out forms online, and using document management. When we get a piece of paper, we scan it. So that way when you have an open records request, we can easily go in there and find the document. Social media. When I came on to council, we had 0 social media. It has been a challenge to push it forward. But I must say we've come a long way. We have the City Hall has a Nextdoor account. The police station has a Nextdoor account. Fire has a Nextdoor account. The rec center has a Nextdoor account. So we are getting there. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. But we are trying. We are also still on Facebook.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you very mumuch.
Thanks. I'll address the social media question first. Since I'm an old 46-year-old dinosaur, I'd probably be deferring, regardless of whether he's elected or not, to Travis to get his recommendations on what to do with some of those things. He obviously started Nextdoor, and I think that's been one of the greatest forces for progressive change in Hapeville in its existence. So I'm really thankful for that, and I think that city government needs to expand its presence in social media. As far as specifics on how to make our government more open, obviously I started with some at the beginning, but I'll just tell you some of the other ones. Echoing what Travis and Josh said, I'll seek to institute a policy where all city documents are redacted for personal and financial identifiers and scanned and uploaded to a publicly available searchable database, including emails regarding city business of all public officials, me included, if I'm elected, and that will obviate the need for open records requests. Jennifer won't have to deal with 100 open records requests a day if we put all our documents online, and we can do so as long as we redact personal identifiers. Secondly, I'll seek to pass an ordinance that City Council agenda be published at least 5 business days before scheduled meetings. It takes at least 3 business days to receive open record requests. Current procedure has the agenda released on Friday evening before the next Tuesday's meeting, giving no time for council people or citizens to become independently informed about the subject matter for the next meeting. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. And you've heard my other ones about the cameras. Obviously, we should have cameras in city council meetings. I think everybody, I'm not sure if anybody disagrees with that. Does anybody disagree that we need cameras? Okay, so we're all in agreement. Hapeville has come together here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Go right ahead, sir.
Actually, I'll address the social media question first. Actually, I think that social media is as good as the people that actually utilize social media. I think that what I would do immediately is basically ask that we have a more stringent governance of social media from the perspective that people don't feel bullied when they post things on social media, and that it's all encompassing and inclusive and respectful of different ideas and approaches here in Hapeville. That Nextdoor site can become somewhat of a bully tactic or a bully environment sometimes, which can be very off-putting and disturbing for citizens here in Hapeville. So I think that a stronger governance with social media is definitely needed. Also, as far as transparency, the concept of transparency is not new. Back in 1762, President John Adams stated that liberty among the people cannot be preserved in the general knowledge of the people if the things they want is not there for them to have, basically. So if it's there, put it out there. That's the way I feel about it. I think that the Sunshine Review have already done the work for us. They have 10 bullet points or areas that say that should be out there, such as audits, such as meetings, live streaming, such as budget, such as open records requests. They've already done the work. Why not use it? I think it's very simple and very easy to make that change here in Hapeville. Also, I think that we need to redesign our website, as Travis stated earlier, and it should find all the information that we need within 3 clicks or less to make it easy for people to find access here. And also, I think that if we create a listserv or some type of communication tree as far as what's going on in Hapeville, it truly will serve the citizens here more rapidly.
Thank you. Next.
Yeah, and I'm just going to repeat, live streaming, it can be done for free via social media with closed captioning, so you automatically have timestamp, video, and minutes recorded. The website definitely needs to be revamped. If anybody has a chance, if you check out the City of San Diego's website, it's absolutely beautiful, and everything you need is right there on the homepage. I want to file for a permit. I want to make a code enforcement complaint. I want to see what happened at the last council meeting. Literally everything you need right there, from city happenings to government happenings is right there. I also think, again, I've said this about 4 times, we can be very hands-on. We can have town hall meetings. People are very busy. They can't always attend city council meetings. I think that we can all agree that we're willing to make ourselves available once or twice a month outside of city council or outside of city hall to actually talk to people face-to-face, answer their individual questions. And also, if a decision needs to be made, there's an ability to create focus groups around an idea to see how people respond to it, how they like it, or any improvements or changes they would like to see made. Resident surveys. I know I would love to have someone knock on my door and ask me my opinion face-to-face instead of hearing about a decision that's been made after the fact. And I was born in the age of social media. I absolutely hate Facebook, but I feel like it's a necessary evil in 2017. And the key to kind of being promoted, and you don't even have to pay for this, is to post constantly. And I know that I have looked at the Facebook page just to kind of look for things that I've heard are happening in the city, and I don't see them. And this can be done for free. I mean, I know my son is 12. He loves to take pictures, and I could teach him how to post things to Facebook. And I think that the keys to that to be given to a few people to constantly kind of keep people updated, to post and post and post the positive things that are happening to the city instead of just the negative that's going to put people off and kind of discourage them from being involved or sharing their input. We have to be as inclusive as possible to get people to be involved and participate.
Thank you. Next.
Unfortunately, transparency issues are a problem all around in government and business, everything you can think of, and it has caused Hapeville some problems in the past. It's one of the main things we need to move forward with because it gives a negative opinion, and it creates negative opinion in the business world, the residential world. The technology exists to put all of our things online relatively cheaply, sometimes free. The live streaming is an important, aspect to look into, of course, cameras, this and that. We have nothing to hide. We want to help the city grow, and we want the people to be involved with us, and it's very important that we all think together and know exactly what page we're on.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have found from listening to these candidates that many of them have similar thoughts about the transparency and opening it up and expanding on social media. As we look at our timepieces, now how's that for an old word? If you look at our timepieces, we will see that it is about 8:45, am I right? which gets us to the point of asking our candidates something that I'm certain you all want to hear. Why am I the best person for the position? As your moderator, I would like to ask for you to hold your burning questions that may follow up on social media, and let's allow these candidates to really take their 2 minutes to tell us why they are the best person for the position. And we will begin with John. 2 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So I think that everybody up here on this stage loves this town, and you have to admit that there's a lot of commitment that it will take to run for city council and to be able to commit the time. So, I want to thank all of y'all, whether I win or lose, because I may not have a chance again, to thank you for being committed to this city. Secondly, I would say that those of you who know me know that I am very involved in this town. I've been doing community service in this town for the past 6 or 7 years. I'm not going to list them because I never did community service to run for council. I ran for council because I did community service, and I love this town. And I don't think that anybody up here doesn't. But my main goal in running for council is to help bridge the divide. I said this earlier, is to help bridge the divide between the city government and its people. And I think that with the community service that I do, that I will continue to volunteer and do that service and help to build a relationship with each and every one of you, should you choose to have one with me. And because of that, I think that I bring something to this table that everybody else here does not. And I think that that makes me a very valuable candidate.
Thank you. Next.
When I first came to Hapeville, I came and I was looking around and somebody told me, well, I know who you are. You were the guy who ran for mayor in 2008 in Atlanta. And you know what you need to do? You need to get involved in Hapeville city government. And I did. I got involved in government. And in 2015, I ran for alderman. And over this period of time, I've been involved in politics for the last 30 years. I'm a elected district rep for District 5, which covers Hapeville. That's John Lewis's area. I graduated from Morehouse College, and I think I bring a lot of knowledge and I bring a lot of expertise, proven, trusted, guaranteed experience to this city council seat. And I would like nothing more than your vote on November the 7th. And again, my name is Rod Mack.
Thank you. Next.
I just want to, it's been a long 4 years. It's been great. We've done so much stuff in 4 years. It's pretty amazing. We got a new ladder truck. So that ladder truck, the old ladder truck was 1986. We were putting our firefighters on a 1986 ladder truck. We got that ladder truck at no residential expense. We have a new Discovery Montessori school coming in right down the street. We have breweries. We have Beer Girl. We have Corner Tavern. We have 10 cameras. We have license plate readers that whenever you come and leave the city, we run a license plate. We get to see who's coming and going. We've done gallery crawls. We've done multiple gallery crawls. We've actually installed that arts alleyway in the back. We did the Veterans War Memorial. We installed the shipping container galleries. We did we're doing the Dogwood Project right now. We've done the North Fulton Project with all of the sidewalks. We got T-Splosh coming up with silent crossings and more sidewalks. With the sidewalks for the T-Splosh, we're actually looking at the parks and parks that do not have sidewalks that attach to them and making sure that our citizens can walk from their house to a park on a sidewalk. We've reduced speed limits in this city. There are streets in this city that were 30 miles an hour on a residential street. That's faster than it is on North Central. We passed an ordinance that reduced all of our city streets to 25 miles an hour on residential streets. And last of all, we've reduced your property tax. We've rolled back. I will continue to roll back your property taxes as our assessments go up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Once again, the city had to announce a 32% increase in your tax. The millage decrease was minute. In order for us to have had a, you can look it up. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a 32% tax increase. It's $1.6 million extra dollars from the previous year on the tax digest. To roll back the millage to keep it even, it would have been at about 11.5 or 12%, which would have brought us into, realistic range with other municipalities. The point is, staying informed is the most important thing, and one has to be able to have the skills to stay informed. I actually did an open records request about how often Mr. Powell and Mr. Adams have done open records requests since 2014. And there was only one. Mr. Powell made one open records request to keep himself informed. Mr. Adams has made 0 since 2014. I've made about 200. I know what's going on in the city more than anybody else on this panel working for this job, Councilman Ward 1. And the reason why is because I do open records requests and I find out what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Sure, let me quickly jump in and address the concept that I have not made any open records request. When we make open records requests, we have to ask ourselves innately to ask ourselves the question, is it information versus instigation? So that's why a lot of all of those open records requests may have been
If you would hold
made
your
in the city of
applause,
Hapeville.
please. Thank you.
Okay. Also, why am I the right person here in Hapeville is because I think I know I have the ability to unite Hapeville because I'm very objective. My training basically serves me to be rational and logic in my approach of things. I have the ability to hear all sides and formulate a decision based on the facts and what's in the best interest of all citizens, not just one particular interest group in Hapeville. I have the ability to basically create a synergistic effect among citizens and to do that as hence the right person at the right time for the right reason, because I will serve all the people of Hapeville and not just one particular interest group.
Thank you. Next.
Well, when I think about my reason for running in the first place, I think that I'm just an ordinary person, and I think most of the people in the city are ordinary people, and people like to see people like them representing them. And I feel like I don't have the voice to represent people. I want to speak with them instead of on their behalf. My interest is to meet as many people as possible, to hear from as many people as possible, and get as much input from as many people as possible to actually represent them the way they want to be represented. And I also feel like I'm inherently objective because I'm new here. I've only lived here for 9 years, so I'm not involved in a lot of the history, and so I can only go based off of evidence that's presented in front of me and act what's in the best interest of what people want. I also feel like that as a math teacher, I try to make things as logical and simple as possible, even when they're complicated, and I think that's what people want also. They want to be involved, but they don't want to be intimidated, and they don't want to feel like this is above my head, and I feel the same way. And so my goal would also be to present things to people in a way that they can understand, that kind of encourages them to ask questions, that encourages them to investigate when things need to be investigated, to ask the right questions when things need to be questioned, because that's my intention, is to ask questions to make sure that I'm making the right decision and to make sure I'm not just falling in line, so to speak. So that's pretty much my goal, and I'm really looking forward to speaking with as many of you as possible and answering as many of your questions as possible so that you can let me know what I could do for you as a city councilwoman.
Thank you. Next.
All right. I feel I'm the right candidate for the job, not because of my great knowledge or my wealth of information, but because of my relationships that I've made with all the people here in Hapeville through my business. Many of you trust me and my opinions for what I do in a business that's sometimes untrustworthy. I want to bring that same quality of trust and that same lack of opinion, study the facts, to every decision I make for these people. I mean, it's important. It's important that everyone has a voice that they can trust. I can learn. I will be learning. It's a constant learning it. And it's just about opinion, not being swayed by special interest groups, not being swayed by people who have eyes for the city that you feel don't follow, through with the general people of Hapeville that you care for and that you represent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
I'm going to sort of flip this on the side and go sort of an opposite way. So, speaking of character, I think us three gentlemen are very much in tune with what's happening with the city, and we love the city. And if any three of us win, I think we are going to honor the other person and help build that person up as much as we can. In particular, speaking to the character of John, as soon as both of us qualified, he was walking out his front door as I was walking out my front door to say, "Hey, buddy, we're neighbors. I don't have the honor of being your neighbor, close enough, but it was a long walk down two homes." But I think that speaks to the character and the candor and the quality of the folks that at least are running for the at-large position. So specifically, John, thanks for being a great neighbor. What I think I can bring to the dynamic of council is a restored trust in the political sphere. As many of, I believe Chloe and Mark were specifically referencing, I try, I'm less of a community servant in the sense that I'm not out with a paintbrush, but I'm sitting behind an Excel spreadsheet. And I know that sounds dumb sometimes, but I'm a data nerd, and I appreciate that label, and I think that brings a specific level of rationality and an analytical approach to council that we might not have right now. So hopefully I can bring that. My promise is, even if I make a decision that you don't agree with, hopefully I can at least explain the logic from point A to point Z of how I got there. And if you're not impressed with that, well, there's not really much convincing that can be done. So rationality, I think we all have it, but I think specifically with my educational upbringing, it's my strong suite. So
Time.
Hope you vote for me.
Thank you all. Now please give them a rousing round of applause. Thank you all candidates. I want to again remind you and encourage you to please talk to them afterwards, because we value your time, we took the privilege of moving the agenda along, and we hope that you agreed with that decision. And now, as we look at our timepieces, and we are right on time, love that timepieces, my grandmama used to say that, we're going to ask Mr. Terry to come back with closing remarks. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I think it's been a great evening, don't you? I want to thank everybody for their attention, especially the candidates. We owe a specific debt of gratitude to the people at the village and their staff for presenting this fantastic atmosphere for us. And special shout out to Lee Duke and the Hapeville Community Coalition.